Testing 1, 2, 3. We've lost some internet connection. Just a moment. Testing 1, 2, 3.
John, what's happening?
Audio issues there.
We're currently having audio issues. Please give us just a moment to reconnect.
Oh my God.
It's not your microphone, because your microphone was cracking
Testing 1, 2, 3.
when you were talking back there.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Is the iPad making sound now?
No,
Nothing?
nope.
Did you connect using internet? Does it have an option for that?
Not now.
What did it say across the bottom?
It's the same thing it did before, John.
Hey,
There
you're
is nothing on the bottom.
broadcasting. You're broadcasting across this meeting. Call it 12.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. You want to change it? No. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Susie can hear you now.
All right, we're ready to go. Okay, we're ready. Thank you.
Here you go.
Mhm.
Okay, let me go back to the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or modifications? And we do have a request to have full items A and B, resolution 2021-09 and resolution 2021-10. Tonight's agenda. Are there any requests? Other than those two items being full. Yeah, we have a motion to accept the agenda with those two items full, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with item full.
A second. Okay, with two items, you're not gonna have any audio, right? So,
Zoe, can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're
Okay.
good. Thank you. Motion made by Councilwoman Crum, seconded by Councilman Paul. Roll call, Councilman Paul,
yes.
Councilwoman Crum,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Manning.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Now, request, this section and allow comments from the public to speak on any item not presented on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment. Public comment card should be completed. The city clerk. When you are speak, please go to the phone.
Mayor Manning, we received no previous comment cards. To give me a moment to give the virtual audience a moment to unmute their devices. Please state your name and address for the record. As a reminder, if you're not speaking, please mute your device. Again, Mayor, we received no previous comment cards. However, we'll give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or mute their devices. Please state your name and address for the record. Mayor, I see no virtual hands. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to the consent agenda. This section of the agenda consists of routine or administrative items that require final approval by the city council, may be approved in its entirety by a single motion. There'll be no discussion of these items unless a city council member requests such, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, considered on a future agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Councilman O'Connor, seconded by Councilwoman Crum. Roll call, Councilwoman Crum,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Manning, Councilman Paul.
Yes. Thank you. We pulled item A and B from our public hearing portion. So we'll move on to the regular agenda, which we'll start out with A, goals and objectives.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a follow-up from our last meeting. Mr. Concar is here with your input from each of you. I'll put it in the list. You have a revised list of the latest revisions that we've received from today, and Mr. Concar will walk us through it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to start this process with you. In the revised sheet that we did hand out, looks like this. There's 11 items on it. We did get some additional items from Councilmember O'Connor, and we've incorporated 4 of those into the first 2 items. And that would be long-term financial plan and improvement of communications. Now, as we discussed in the last meeting when the board approved going forward with the process, we talked about trying to limit to 5 goals. Now, right now, we have it down to 6. One of the things I would recommend is we move the improved recruitment of business. That was, there were several council members that mentioned that. Move that up as part of the long-term financial plan. If we do that, then that gets you down to the 6 right now. So based on the input from the council members, you would have develop a long-term financial plan, improve communications, and then number 3, improve recruitment of business would go under the long-term financial plan. Development of an affordable housing program, establishment of a resource base for workforce development, and develop a rebranding plan for the city. And then the last one would be traffic light timing. So that would reduce the total number of 11 down to 6.
What would be the subheadings under the develop a long-term financial plan?
Say that again.
Is there there's subheadings or?
Yes,
Other
yes.
objectives?
Yes.
What specific agenda, what specific items do you have would be underneath that?
Well, obviously on the long-term plan, you would talk about, one of the comments was, what do we do when we lose the revenue from the Minto? That would be included in the long-term plan. Financial also, and economic development, because obviously economic development has an impact on your overall revenue. So that's why those 3 components would be included in the long-term financial plan.
I had requested that something about City Hall be included in here, about what we could do about City Hall.
That would be under the capital.
Capital improvements.
Right.
Developing branding plan for the city. Could be wrong, but don't we have a budget item that will we hire a firm or have a firm that is basically manages the branding of the city? And
We're working with the PR firm currently to set forth a current vision where we are. But then as we grow and that changes, we'll modify that, but we can use the same PR firm as we develop a rebranding of what we are, what we want to be. And it's all open to input and your guidance as we start to go into these actual items, but as we go into getting more input from you all on the rebranding, what you think the rebranding should look like, et cetera. So those kind of input needs to come from you as the board through the manager to the PR firm, so we can say, are we branding ourselves in the right perspective? Right now, we're doing the back to beyond segments. We've done some filming. We've done a lot of photo shots. We're about ready to give a presentation on it, which I expect probably in the next 30 days, because they're doing some more filming to show where we started and where we are currently. And then I would say the next phase would be beyond. Where do we go from the beyond? We're in the beyond right now. What's the next step? What's the future? That would be the next version, I would say.
so that firm, they're gonna have a presentation for us as to
Where we are so far. In other words, what we authorized for originally was to tell our story, where we came from and where we are and where we're at currently. Then it's up to you all to again say, okay, we've told our story where we are, where we got to now. Now it's time to tell the story where we're continuing to go to. And that's the next step, I would say, would be the
the input. Is there any input from the firm?
Sure.
Basically, vision, what we could do, just whatever, those kind of things.
They would provide vision as to taking your ideas of what you think we should be or what we want to portray, and they'll come up with how to portray that, how to market it, how to put it out there in a way that is going to be acceptable to the public in general, that they're going to buy into and say, yeah, that's where I want to go, that's where I want to be, that's where I want to live.
So I have a question. Traffic light type. I 100% agree with it. It was also one of my items. But why does this have to be such a formal goal and objective? Why can't it just be something we do? Why can't we just fix the traffic light type? You know, I get a lot of this, you know, through communications, develop a long-term plan. Those are things that are going to take a lot of work and a lot of staff hours and a lot of energy and to get done. But I feel like traffic light timing should be something that we can just do. Let's make that left turn a yellow blinking light into the neighborhood. And then make the left turn out of the neighborhood a yellow blinking light. If when our population increases to the point where that's no longer safe, then obviously we'll address it. But right now, it's insane. We got 5 cars, the light turns green, 1 car can go, and then it turns yellow immediately. The next 3 cars are stuck there. Meanwhile, coming up Seminole Pratt into the neighborhood.
Well, on that, Ken, you may remember the email that I sent you on that traffic light sometime back.
That's
It's
crazy.
timing being off.
Town Center Parkway has been a thorn since it went in. We've had the county out there no less than 24 times.
But
And there's some,
my question there is, and I don't know if it's on
No.
the topic there right now, but the question is, are they or are they not operated by contacts in the roads?
they're not operated by contacts in the road. All the lights on Seminole Pratt are operated by cameras. The cameras detect the number of vehicles, et cetera, in the lanes. And then it does an algorithm as to how long they should be open, et cetera, but it's also timed into the rest of the lights all the way down Seminole Pratt, everywhere else. Part of the problem is that particular light for a long time was seeing ghost shadows, where we think there was a car there when there was nothing, because of the shadow from the sun at certain times with trees, tree limbs. It thinks there's a car, there's not a car. We've had them look at it, like I say, over 24 times out here since it went in. They think they get it squared away. It seems to be working for a week or 2, and then it just.
Is there a reason why we do not have contacts? Because you can, quite frankly, you can sit on this coming out of town center and then you can sit there forever and 10 days. There's nothing coming down Seminole Pratt.
Understood.
And you're just sitting there.
County has,
Nothing happening.
county has transitioned to the camera system on all of their newer intersections, but I'll push back at the county some more.
Why couldn't we just make it a blinking yellow? I mean, there's literally no cars coming and you're sitting there.
You gotta go across the lane of track. I think that's, could be.
Well, it's the,
Well, it should,
Come on,
turn-
come
so
on.
I think the councilman is saying, I've seen it in other locales where once it goes to green, after that it goes to a blinking yellow. As long as the north-south is green, it stays a blinking yellow until it turns red, and all of them turn red. I will see if that can be programmed in. That would
Seminole
definitely
Pratt,
help.
if you come from the north side, you're trying to take that left turn on
Yep.
Seminole Parkway. In the mornings, if there's one construction truck, that one construction truck barely gets across the intersection. Or that light turns red again. So people just sitting there. The way it is now is
All
really-
day, every day, and I cannot say that I blame them. That's it. They're just
I understand.
I think we can move off of this.
I'll-
City manager's got this.
I will hammer the county.
But my point is, I would hate to waste a whole
Yeah.
line item
That's-
on traffic light timing when it's something that I think should
You
be.
want to pull it
simple to
off, we can pull, I would say,
We can
be
put
fine with
something else
pulling it off
right in.
long term.
solve. Where does that leave us?
So if you take that out, it gets you down to 5.
What we want. Can work, follow my other things there and.
Well, the 4 of the items you mentioned are already included in these others above it, mainly financial plan and communications.
These will be put on the city website, right, or not?
Well, the next step is going to be, now that you're down to 5 goals, what we want to do is take the goals we're going to work with the staff and develop a work plan for each item. Bring that back, hopefully at the next council meeting, get you to approve the work plan, then the whole thing can be posted. Because just having the goal doesn't really tell the public much. They're going to want to, well, okay, well, what are you going to do for a long-term financial plan? You know, but the objectives give you the specifics. Here's the things that are going to take place. So that's why I'd recommend we just wait until the board approves the work plan, and then that's what you post on the website.
Can you tell me communications, what all does that entail?
You had quite a few comments from the council members. One of them was improved communication between the residents and the staff. That was one of the items that came up. And then improved communications between the council and the staff. So those were the two primary for communication. The other one was providing better information to residents. Like, for example, one of the council members said, mentioned things about workforce, about economic and job opportunities. And all that can be rolled up into either the workforce or the communication part. So those were the primary items that were covered under communication.
For residents to get in contact, and I brought that up a number of times now, with getting in contact with Sid or whomever they need. It is admirable for Councilman O'Connor to call whomever on the weekends because somebody has a leak in their front yard. But the residents need to be able to quickly look at phone register, something, telling them this is who I can call, and it has to be reliable. We have to get to the point where Sid or whoever responds to these people, because the last incident with the water in the front yard, backyard, wherever it was, those things, we got to get an answer to that. So if that is a part of communication, then
Yes, that would be. Normally what you would do in a city setting is you would create what I call after hours emergency number, whatever it is. I mean, if it's not a police or fire emergency, people know what to do, 911. But other issues, we would have a number on the website that would cover everything else. Nights, weekends, you know, like you're saying, it could be a leak.
one of the biggest issues is in fact water leaks, I would think. You know, when people just don't know where to turn the water off, who even to call. So we've got them fairly quickly get to a point where we find a solution.
So considering that we never get to talk to each other, you know, I think it'd be great if we were able to workshop our actual specific ideas. One of my things here is creating a Westlake app for communication, where they can go right on the app and get the number to whoever they need to call. You know,
Not everybody.
but I want to hear all your ideas too, you know, specifically. It sounds like, I mean, I get it, these are broad suggestions, but I'd love to get to the meat and potatoes of it all and see what we're actually proposing.
I mean, whether that is a fly on the mail, this is, put it on your
It should
refrigerator,
be
or whatever, those kind of things. Little old school, if you will, but people have got to get away to get in contact with somebody, because these water bills, they are not low as it is, and that just adds to the aggravation.
Well, on each of the water bills or utilities, you should have an emergency number for utilities. And that way, if they don't, because there's residents in the other communities that don't have computers, some of them don't even have phones, you know, iPhones or whatever. So you send them a water bill, then everybody should at least have a water bill and be able to look up a number for an emergency.
As long as that number is then being answered.
No, I agree. Yes, I agree 100%. Yes. But to address Councilmember O'Connor's comment, that's where the objectives come in. You take the broad goal of improving communication and you put the specifics in it.
That's the next step.
That will be the next step. That's what we call the annual work plan. Because the next step is for the staff now that we've gotten the broad goals, take the goals and turn that into a work plan for how we're going to accomplish those goals. Because just saying, okay, here's the goals, well, great idea, but if there's no specific steps that the staff is taking to accomplish it, you're never going to reach the goal. So that's where the work plan comes in. And that would be the next document that you see, the annual work plan.
Use your mics.
Use your mic.
You would talk to us to bring the work plan back. You would talk to us. to bring
Yes,
the work
that's
plan
correct.
back.
Well, what we would do is, now that the board has given us the 5 goals, we are now going to develop that work plan and distribute that to all the council members. And we'll certainly try to do it ahead of the next meeting. So if you have specific questions before the meeting, that would be great. Because that way that kind of cuts down on discussion in the council meeting. But the idea is to give you the specifics of how we were going to accomplish the goals.
Well, I do agree, and we did briefly hit on this last time, because questions that are coming up are sparking ideas and thoughts of other council members. And because we cannot talk, I would like for staff to schedule a workshop so we can work through this collectively and together, because there may be some, like, for example, recycling system for the city. Is that green? If whomever mentioned that, are they talking about going green for the city? I just think that it should be workshops if the staff, if our staff could do that, at the discretion of council suggestions, so that we can work through it and come up with that collectively and together.
Well, I think the best way to do that would be to have a workshop between now and the next council meeting,
Absolutely.
where we give you a draft, though. We would give you a draft of the work plan.
Sure.
And then you go through the specifics and say, okay, this looks good, but maybe add this, change that. And so that way, when you get back to a council meeting where you're going to be voting on it, you've got a plan everybody's had a chance to talk about.
Right, and I think that's what we're saying. We don't want to come back to another council meeting where it's time to vote and we have not sat down
Right.
together. to like-
Understood.
And it's super big. I mean, I'll be honest, what I did, I opened it up to 1,000 residents and I said, we've got this goals and objectives process. What do you guys want to see? So, I mean, I've got some great specific items that are directly requested by constituents that nobody on this council has seen.
Yeah.
And I'd love to show it to you. We don't get to talk, so. I think a workshop is in order as well.
Yeah.
With the council, we could do April 26th, which is a Monday evening, or May 3rd. Your choice. Huh?
April 26th?
Yeah.
We already had a workshop.
We do. We could tie it in with it.
What was the date again?
April 26th.
Yeah, I've got a conflict that day. Well, I'll see what I can do. I may be able to attend virtually if nothing else. I think the key is we'll have to, hustle to get a draft together of how the work plan would look.
So we'll add up to the workshop on the 26th with the parks.
Sounds good.
On the,
Of course, the bottom of that.
on the improved recruitment of business, really like to, I don't know if you can break it down into what options we really have there, since the city does not own any land. Can't sell it, we can offer any, so what input do we really have on the business going in?
Well, I think the best way to address it, instead of just business, I think one of the things we would want to do is create an economic development plan that includes incentives that the council could provide, and there's different things that you can do to draw economic development to your community. And so that's how I would kind of couch that, is as an economic development plan, not just business, because there's other aspects to an economic development plan that you wouldn't necessarily get in. How do we just get more business?
Again, I think it would be good, because for my goals, I submitted that.
Yes.
Talked about an economic development plan.
Right.
Down of it, but I think we do need to.
Okay. All right, other questions? Okay, great. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Move on to item B, follow-up of charter position review.
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is a follow-up from the council's request that I guess was back in November, to come back in like 3 months after we went through the conflict resolution, and to go back through and have the council discuss the reviews of both the city attorney and the city manager.
I'll open the floor then, for council.
I don't want to talk first, but I will if you think. I really don't want to. Go ahead.
I'm very brief, so if,
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
okay.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
For me, I'm just to terminate the city's contract with the law office of County Booker, PA, effective 90 days from today pursuant to our contract, and direct the law office of County Booker employees to cease all work, the city of Westlake.
I will second that motion. I had a lot to say, but I'm saying. I guess I should move first.
On what grounds?
Kidnapped child, https://www.flmissing.com/314,079.apg.
You're looking for an answer from me.
Yeah, on what grounds are you making that motion?
Didn't know that based on the contract, you could go with or without cause. I'm going without cause.
I already seconded the motion. If I can do this without airing all of our dirty laundry, that would be great. But I can do it.
Motion, and we have a second
Roll call.
discussion.
Well, I was, without cause, it's kind of hard for me to say anything one or the other. All I can say is I've not seen anything that the city attorney done for harm the city. And as far as text message, whatever, has been sent out, I kind of think you were sitting in a glass house here. Because at some point in time, any one of us has made comments, not necessarily, and whatever that may not be the way other people like it. I know that I've had conversations with people before I became a council member, and there were comments made that are much to the effect of what maybe Mr. Efron has been accused of. So I'm a little surprised by that motion. But like I said, all I've seen from the city attorney is her giving her best advice to us and, letting us know what we should or should not know. I don't see where she's harmed the city. So this is taking me by surprise.
Councilman Crowe.
It's really hard for me to say anything and develop relationships with everybody here due to the toxicity of the environment continuing to happen. I think we do need a change.
Well, I also agree with Councilman Paul. I don't see that the city itself has been harmed. I think that the resolution, that any resolution to this, as far as between the city manager and the city attorney has been addressed by, getting some counseling. And that's what we talked about at the last meeting. I know that there's the conflict that was between vice mayor and text message. As far as I know it at this point, the text message she wasn't involved in that. And if someone said to me, if someone could prove to me that there was something different, I probably have a different opinion on that. I myself am not, at this point, still not in favor of changing my position.
Yeah, so,
And I am going, I wasn't going to address, but I'm going to address.
I wish you would.
I am, as colleague,
Yes.
will address the two of you, and I really wasn't, because as
I'm going to.
Councilman
I think
O'Connor
you should.
said, to air the dirty laundry, I shouldn't, because honestly, we have reached, because there's a call to question there. And we've already broke that, there's a call to question, there's a motion on the floor in a second. So I can do a call to question. I'm being very patient, and I could have done it. However, Councilman O'Connor is gonna say something, and then I will address what the two of you just said.
So I guess it's important that everybody on this council understands where my head's at. I believe I owe that to you. So start from the beginning. Reading the record of passage from my review that I wrote on 10/26/2020. I wrote, and I quote, this was under the management section, where I marked it good. But my comment was, and I quote, I feel there is miles of room of improvement here. This booker appears to be at the center of every contentious issue and controversy involving the city manager, permit applications, special district, landowners, etc. I wrote that on 10/26. A month later, a half hour before the meeting, by the city attorney's ex-husband, vice mayor gets an inappropriate text message. If that's not controversial, I don't know what is. And I don't have a crystal ball. I couldn't predict that was going to happen. I just read, the tea leaves of how things are going on, and that jives. So, just over a month later, you get an extremely inappropriate text message by somebody in the city attorney's family. Now, fast forward, just recently, there's more alleged inappropriate comments by staff. Either way you look at it, it's more controversy. And then there's a bunch of stuff in between. But that really isn't my real issue. My real issue, and it has been since day one, is I just think we're spending entirely too much on legal. I think it's unbelievable. Just to draw a comparison, the county attorney, Denise Neiman, who happens to be retiring, she makes $270,884, roughly about 10% more than our city attorney. The difference is she's in charge of 1.5 million souls. We just sold our 1,000th house. So times 4 for occupancy, we have 4,000 people. She's in charge of 1.5 million, makes only 10% more. You guys know what our budget is. County budget's $5.4 billion with a B. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I've never been shy about it. I just think we're spending entirely too much on legal. So you take that and you compound it with everything else, and it goes back to that analogy I made about Swiss watches and the movements going perfectly with each other so we don't lose any time. We've been losing time. We've been losing tons of time. And, we sent the watch to the repair shop, Mr. Goodman. They came back. I don't think it's fixed. And I think it's time we swap out some parts. That's simple. me, it's more of a fiscal responsibility issue for my constituents. We're spending too much, but the rest of it cannot be ignored. So that's what led me to my decision.
I am,
It's
I'll let
time
you
for me
say-
to talk.
Yes, Mayor.
I'm gonna be very brief. And again, we have a motion on the floor. Period. If it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The statement, allegations were inaccurate, false, and unethical. And I hope that is true. A letter I received, an apology letter. The last sentence said I should have called instead of text. Saying to me, not I was wrong, I should have never have said that. It is untrue, I don't know this to be true. I should have called instead of text. I have not been represented, and I was wrong. I received a text message, November 30th, at 3:48 p.m. that left me bewildered. A text message from a number I did not have in my telephone. So, Councilman Paul and Mayor Manning, for you not to think that I should have a trusting and working relationship with my city attorney, I am offended. I am highly offended. The purpose of a city attorney is to have a trust relationship with the client. I have never had a conversation since that apology letter was written and since a public records request was done by the developer. I am offended because I never said anything disrespectful on this day. Since that happened, I could have come in that night and made a motion, but I didn't. Because I waited 3 months, a total of 3 months, and nothing was ever said as to me as a client. Again, I have a motion on the floor, Mayor, and I am calling to question. If you all do not want to vote yes, that is fine, but this is where I am tonight. If you don't feel that way, that is perfectly fine. I have a call to question.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Long Robinson to terminate Pam Booker's contract, seconded by Councilman O'Connor. Roll call. Councilman O'Connor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Manning,
No.
Councilman Paul,
No.
Councilwoman Crum. Motion carries 3-2.
Yeah, I'll make a comment.
Yes.
I've not responded to this either. It was effective immediately. I'll make my comment. There's been a lot of accusations that have been made. I did not send that text message. I did not direct that text message. I did not ask for that text message. I would have never done such a thing. Were I called to disclose to me what had occurred, I had no knowledge of it. I will say it for the record. I said it to the reporter. There was a call. I was busy focusing on that meeting. Comment was, you don't sound like yourself. What's going on? I said, the developer's trying to get me fired. Why? Because of all the emails John Carter had sent to this council, to all of you, making those suggestions that I be terminated. There was nothing improper with that comment. That was as far as the conversation went. If you would have brought that up that night, I would have been shocked. I had no idea. Same thing with the comments that are just coming up now. They came up on purpose prior to this meeting, because this evaluation is being done with Ephraim. I've not been in office. I've not heard those comments. Nobody told me anything. I did not know until that afternoon. The comments that are alleged in there, those have been discussed. Some of those items have been discussed at these public meetings, they've been discussed with Dale and I, with Ken. These things are not secret. That's not news. They were reported in the newspaper. None of that information is new, but it doesn't matter. Not one of those comments that Pam Booker made those statements, because I absolutely did not. Contrary to what Mr. Carter continues to say, I've not said anything negative about Minto. I've not said anything about John Carter. We may not have the same perspective on what should be in the best interest of the city or the residents, but I've not said anything negative about him or Minto, nor would I. And I'm not going to do it this tonight. I respect your decisions. I apologize to you. I had nothing to do with that. I do not control other individuals, other adults. He does not live in my house. We share a daughter together. That's it. I would have never done that. I apologize to you. I never got an opportunity to follow up with you after that. So whatever becomes of this investigation, I know what I did. I know what I did not do. I would not have done that to you.
Attorney Booker, you know I did not put an investigation out. I am Katrina Long Robinson. I am not John Carter. You and I have had detailed conversation.
Yes, we have.
I'm not going to even go there. We've had detailed conversation. It should not have taken tonight, 3 months later, for you to have this conversation with me publicly. I'm done with that. I'm
That's
done.
perfectly fine.
I'm done with it.
Mayor, I will continue with my comment and say I do thank John Carter and Minto for having enough faith in me to help start the city, get it established and set up. I appreciate working with this initial council. I appreciate working with this council. I'll say I wish you all good luck.
Thank you. Follow-up. Position, city manager.
Have to make another motion on the floor for the city.
Right.
You have to make another motion on the floor of how you will move forward with the not in the meeting.
Sounds like it.
Mr. Mayor, there's several ways that you can do this. Since we're moving forward on a rapid basis,
The charter states that the city manager can take over till till either one of the positions that they come up. City manager takes up position until such
what I
time
would-
as we hire someone.
what I would recommend in the interim is to bring in an interim firm to help do the RFQ for the final selection of an attorney. I would find a firm that I know would not be interested in a long-term relationship, somebody that's not in Palm Beach County, but a firm that does municipal city attorney work for other municipalities is what I would recommend at this point in time. That would give us, 60 to 90 days to put together an RFQ, interview, et cetera, and still have an attorney that I can refer to or you all can contact to keep us out of trouble. So that's what I would recommend at this time, that you authorize me to bring in an interim city attorney. Usually those rates right now are around the $250 an hour range. Like I said, I know a number of different attorneys that I could bring in for that.
Suggest that we have the option as a council, final decision on hiring, even interim. So if someone is, have someone that are available, send their resumes in, and let's pick out who you hire.
I can reach out to a couple of them and ask them to give us a engagement letter proposal.
Right.
They can specify their firms.
Yes.
What do we do in the short term?
Short term.
in the next week. Something comes up.
The long-term bid, I would like to see an open bid where
Yeah,
That's
that's,
part of it.
that's the RFQ. That would be the RFQ. That's what I'm saying. I can bring somebody in immediately, you know, I say immediately, I know firms that probably can come in and walk in, pick up stuff and keep going as needed. And also help to make sure that we write the RFQ broad enough to get what we're looking for in the long term for a city attorney. Absent of that, we're kind of hamstrung if something comes up between bringing somebody on in the next few days, engaging them on a temporary basis. Again, it's an interim temporary basis. So,
We're looking to move on what items, not taking a lot of time in between them, because we don't need hold of right now.
Exactly.
so that would be my recommendation, is just authorize me to contact one of the firms that I've worked with before and has done other municipal work. One of the firms I was, you know, what comes up to the top of my head would be either potentially, if they had capacity, Billing, Cochran, and Wiles. They're out of Broward County. They're all former county city managers, et cetera, out of Broward area. The other firm is that I would be thinking of would be Gorham, Chernoff, and Duty, who is the city attorney for a number of cities in Broward. Those type of firms, they're, you know, 6, 8, 10 member firms that we could bring in on a quick basis to cover us when needed. If they're not needed, we wouldn't be spending any money.
You have, so I would suggest that we have a emergency council meeting later this week, even, if we can. We have to publish the meeting 10 days. Or we can do an emergency meeting
We
at
can do
5, I think, or 4.
Emergency meeting, we just have to, it just 72 hours.
emergency meeting, so he's saying we just have to
Provide notice.
Could we possibly authorize Ken to bring somebody on an emergency basis while we vet the temporary in the time that the RFQ comes out? That's going to be 90 days, but I just don't want to be hanging out in the wind if something were to happen. Can we authorize him to bring somebody in an emergency basis, but we still vet the temporary, you know, the interim? It's almost like a two-step process.
Personally, I'd rather see us, the total, all the council, even, have a say in who we hire.
I love having a say. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just scared if something happens tomorrow. or the
Well,
next day.
we can have an emergency council meeting here, pretty quick. I think the charter says 3 days.
72 hours. I just have to
I have
provide
it right here.
emergency
Get us some
meeting,
options
you
for
and
72 hours?
Yeah, I'll get on the phone in the morning and
Right.
take something down.
I can advertise for the meeting first thing in the morning.
Whatever it says, as far as the shortest time period, I think it's some days we take 3 or 5 minutes.
how long does it take for a new attorney to get familiar with the land development agreement with the nation? What is my ask there is that
And we're watching 2 orders on the Kaylee, and she's outside
he
for the first time.
can give us an
Oh, you
appointment,
did?
anything of that nature.
I would say that of the firms that would respond, or even the firms that I would be using interim, they do this on a regular basis. They serve as city attorneys for other cities. So understanding the differences or the nuances here would not be very long for them to come up to speed.
Mayor, if I may interject also about the notice, it's reasonable notice. I say we should give at least 72 hours, but we can get a notice out first thing in the morning.
So we could do a meeting on, Thursday evening,
Thursday.
Thursday.
I would have to send virtual. What time?
I would say 6:30 and I'll round up somebody for an interim.
Yeah. we can have that. You can email us the info ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we could-
I'll tell them to shoot me an interim engagement letter.
Yes.
And with the background of their firm, and then I'll forward that out to the council.
Is there anything else on that subject?
We have to make a motion so that you have authorization to hire.
No, that wouldn't be at this time. What we're doing is we're setting the emergency meeting on Thursday. At that point in time, you all will look at who you want to do as the interim. You'll say, I want to do an engagement letter with XYZ company for an interim manager, interim attorney. And then from there, part of the direction to the manager and the interim attorney would be to prepare an RFQ for attorney services for ongoing services to the city.
Okay, we're going to follow up charter position with you as city manager. Councilman O'Connor.
Yeah. Was it juicy stuff?
Vice Mayor. That concludes that portion of our agenda. New business. Select a member of the city council to serve the position of vice mayor until April 11th, 2022.
This is on the agenda because the charter says every April. Last year, we deferred it till May because of the election and new people, et cetera, et cetera. But I did go ahead and put it on for this meeting. If you want to do it at this meeting, that's fine. If you want to delay it till May meeting, it's totally up to you as a council.
I would like to nominate or recommend and J.P. O'Connor. I have less than a year left of Westlake, and I am excited to see you transition into the leadership role. Get ready to roll up. So I would like to nominate Councilman J.P. O'Connor to serve as vice president.
So, honor. Huge, huge, girl. I know you're following in town.
You have an email to residents recommending that just O'Connor, vice mayor for the next year, although I think he's done a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean she's going to stop. Come on.
No.
You're talking about Katrina. She's not going to stop being involved in it. Right?
We have a first on the floor, we have a second.
It was a nomination. I don't think Vice Mayor made a motion. Was it, I think it was just a nomination. You made a motion?
I assume that
I make
we're
a
going to make
motion,
the
yeah.
motion because
I make a motion that Councilman J.P. O'Connor serve as the vice mayor of the Innovative City of Westlake.
Motion nominating Councilman O'Connor for Vice Mayor until April 11, 2022. By Vice Mayor Long Robinson, seconded by Councilwoman Crum. Roll call. Vice Mayor Long Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Manning.
yes.
Councilman Paul? Councilwoman Crump? Councilman O'Connor?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
I will say that, I received this emails, couple of emails from the resident, and, I would believe that, it's a good time, with majority of this council when, their last year, it's time, someone. Thank the vice mayor for making the, motion.
Thank you, Matt.
It's completely white on the front.
Do that?
When,
You have to read by title.
Like the number, we didn't actually read the resolution.
I'll read the resolution into record. Resolution 2021-12, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Westlake, Florida, electing a member of the City Council to serve in the position of Vice Mayor until April 11, 2022, pursuant to the city's charter provision as set forth in Section 8D.
Thank you. Very on the other hand. City council comments. Always, Mr. Hiring, so we'd like to start with you.
That's fine. First and foremost, I just want to say what I'm under. Things a little bit contentious.
Good.
I don't. I don't know. And thank you. For it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Councilwoman Crump?
I have it in my heart, it's pounding out of my chest right now. I am looking forward to editing this new chapter. Hopefully this changes my brain.
I do apologize for being upset. I did not let anyone get me out of character. That's what happened. But until you are the wrongful, and you are doing exactly what is right, it is hurtful. It is hurtful. That's all I have to say about it. I look forward to moving the city forward. I look forward to working with the city again. Order.
Paul?
I just, for the city manager, I would like to know more, and I don't know if he has checked. I talked to you last week about the electricity increase rate. I'm a little surprised by that because solar plant here and whatnot, that it all has been calculated for a bit longer term for the rate hike. So I don't know if we can check on that and figure out why it is that FPL is planning a rate hike.
well, I did receive an email from one of the individuals there, and at the same time, I have some contacts with individuals in Public Service Commission, so I'll also find out what they understand as the background for it.
I do want to thank Mental, I guess, the HOA for Emerson, the Meadows. The residents have asked for better lighting. About that, John Carter has acted on it. They have now better lighting at the mailbox. That's a good thing. Talk about the city phone numbers. I have a request for the residents. Mask. Pick up your mask. Anywhere you go, you see face masks later on. kind of, that brings up another point, and way back I've asked that, I don't know if it is possible for the city to put some sort of trash container or something around the main lake and the meadows that you can walk around. Whether it's for people to put dog or whatever in there, but it might help with the trash on the lake if we could have something along the way there for people to discard their trash.
I'll bring it to its attention.
And then I really want to voice my disappointment again with what has transpired here tonight. It caught me by complete surprise. I had no idea that this was going to happen. I did not see anything that had really did wrong. Yes, there was some accusations that have been made, but the fact is that it's not something that we don't see every day. Large politics and whatnot. People have been accused, and talked to in various different ways, and this is surprising. To me, that the city attorney has shown nothing but good faith for the city, has given us the knowledge that we needed to make our decisions, and this should not have led to appointed.
To address Vice Mayor. I'm the kind of, just so that you know, the kind of person, what I believe in. If an investigation had been done and there was certain that was, the attorney was involved in this, and the rest of it knew about it, I would have a totally different opinion of how I feel about this. I'm the type of person that has to see it, believe it, or someone has to do that action. So I'm really sad, upset that there wasn't some communication that satisfied what we were looking for from her previous to now. I wish it could have been different. I totally respect your position also. When the newspaper reporter called me to talk about this, and he interviewed me, he asked me what I would, what my position was. And my position was at that time that you had then gotten a response from Mr. Jeffrey, this is my last name, and that I kind of figured it was might have been over with. It worked out, but obviously it wasn't. I wished it. And I hope we can move forward in this city without kind of controversy. As you all know, I'm close to a year away from relinquishing my position, and as you know, the other side are sitting on the side, and so I will have to say that the city attorney did keep me abreast of legal matters, reporting my health, a lot of education from it, and I'm sorry that we're at this point. If I've done anything to offend you, Vice Mayor, I apologize. I intend. Doesn't hurt their relationship.
feel how you feel, and I feel how I feel.
Right.
And I'm not gonna air laundry, but there were some things there that are not true. And even in response, that I'm leaving that there.
Well, I'll say this.
Leave that, leave
I'm
that.
I'm a team player. That's the way I've been, in business and other ones. The vote, the vote. You're on, it's water, everything is behind me as far as this goes at this point. And, now we're gonna move forward. Staff reports. Sheriff's report was in your packet.
I believe the fire report has been was on the diet for you as well.
Yes.
The response times. The city clerk is working with both to try to get them time so that we can get them in the agenda before it goes out the door. But I think the change in the captain at the fire, this person didn't know to get it out in a certain time frame, so we've been working on that. Zoe's been in touch with them, get it more on a routine with everything. Craig is, I believe, still on the phone if you have any questions for him. So, Captain Turner, still, if you have any questions for him.
I don't have any questions, but do you have anything you'd like to report to the captain?
No, you had one crime in the city last month, and it happened at your local bar, and the suspect was found and arrested for stealing somebody's items out of the bar. As far as the deputies, I've talked to Ken recently, and they're going to be focusing some of their efforts on your two roadways, Persimmon and your main thoroughfare into your community and make sure that the speeding is being held down. Because they had an issue over the weekend or a couple days ago with a crash inside of your development, and everything else really has been focused on Seminole Pratt on keeping vehicles below the speed limit during the school zones.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, a couple things, follow up on Captain Turner. Sometime Friday night between 2 and 4 a.m., another vehicle managed to come flying down Town Center Parkway North and took out a tree and almost ended up into the roundabout again. That's the second time, I think actually third in like 3 years.
Myself.
So I've asked the captain to have his night crew, especially Friday, Saturday night, because that seems to be late night when we're having those type of occurrences, to really focus on Town Center Parkway North. During the day, concrete trucks and other delivery trucks are really kind of pushing it down Persimmon. You don't want to be out there on a bicycle or anything else. So I've asked them to step up the enforcement. The only thing, spoken to the vendors, et cetera, trying to get them to slow down, but they're pushing it. And the only thing that's going to slow them down is where to get out to start nailing them with a few tickets here and there. And then they'll start slowing down. But that's on the agenda. Florida Public Utilities, gas guns. They have received the permits, I believe I reported a week or so ago.
Yeah.
Through all the agencies. They're into DEP now. As soon as they get DEPs, they'll start piping from Harlena up. There's some fine tuning going on with the actual location in Pod H, which is across the street up here. But that's all being worked out moving forward. If you noticed, 7-Eleven 2.0 is broken ground, so they're starting to go. The public site is being prepped and cleared. Good portion of Pod H is being cleared and getting ready for the storage facilities and the other out parcels. Other things, I did a virtual attendance of the Palm Beach County City Managers Group this month, as well as Western Communities Council. And also we had the environmental people in today. We're going to be doing some remediation work in the main offices. What we discovered from the remediation guys is that we need to add a couple more returns, because what's happening with the doors closed now, since COVID started, we're keeping our office doors closed a lot more. So the air that's coming into like my office or Pam's office in the front can't really get back to the returns and enough flow. So the returns are actually sucking extra air out of above the drop ceiling, which is starting to set up a moisture condition and mold type of situation. So we're adding a couple return airs, plus a cleaning, plus some other items to be worked into that. But it's one of those things that you hadn't done it in the past, and then all of a sudden this year, but it's really because we've been having the doors closed all the time. So, this COVID thing has exposed a lot of things that we never thought we had, or issues you had. So we're going there. But also, in the Tuesday night coffee with the managers, I asked that we put out on the Westlake Wanderer, as well as others, that in addition, PBSO is going to start looking at people with go-kart or golf carts, because we're finding them, and some people with some motorcycles on basically private property. And we're going to start enforcing that. In other words, if you have a golf cart, you're on the path, you're on the roads, not into a development, running around in the backside of an undeveloped development, et cetera, et cetera. Also, Minto's policy is prospective homeowners, et cetera, have to be escorted into light groves. So people should not be in there. So the PBSO is also aware of that, and they will be running people out of there as well. So there's some things that now, as we got more people around and around and around, we have to keep reminding them that there's certain places you really can't go or shouldn't go.
Turning into a real city here.
Yes, we are. And also, I believe I copied you all on the email regarding one house with the issues. We're still working with that realtor and the current owner to get it squared away. Just as an update. That's all I have at this time.
Did FPU have a completion date? Now that they get,
They're waiting for the final for DEP. As soon as DEP cuts them loose, they'll start, and then I'll get an actual date for them. But since they've got all the permits, they should be able to run north to south pretty quick.
The code enforcement, is there anything, any more prospects? I know you said the meeting with Wellington, I believe, fell through.
Yeah.
My concern is that besides that one house, driveways have been extended, things have been done that people may not necessarily be aware of. So if a house being sold and a driveway breaks, for example, are they then being held liable? And we kind of get, I feel we need to protect future buyers and homeowners from
Well, there's
having to deal with issues that they ultimately are not responsible for.
a combination there. Some of that is really the enforcement of the HOA that we have to make sure that they're stepping up onto, of looking at their records to say, yes, I approved your driveway expansion, and I approved, Ms. Robinson's, and I approved this one and that one, but I didn't approve this one over here. So they did it without approval of HOA. And then we check the HOA can file with them and then bring it to the city and say, hey, we didn't approve it. They did it. Did they get a permit from you? And then that starts the process. But yeah, I'm still looking at different ways with whether you're third party out, special master, and or Wellington. I'm still working on those.
Again, I'm concerned because a lot of houses are being bought and sold.
Right.
And driveways have been extended. New buyers are not aware of what should have been done. They're buying this house and say we have code enforcement down the line. How are we going to handle this? Are they then going to be responsible? I feel we need to fix this now, get hold of this now, and somehow work with the HOA, see which houses have not had city approval. I'm pretty sure they all had that HOA approval. But that does not mean they had city approval where driveways are being broken up and so on.
We can do a cross-reference of the ones that they've approved to, and again, most of that, we have in the system, so we can cross-reference it fairly easy. So we'll jump on that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see it better sooner than later.
Okay.
Again, because houses are being sold every day, they're being turned over, whichever. We gotta protect future buyers from falling into a trap.
We'll work on it.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to public comments. Agenda items over. Section of the agenda allows for comments from the public to speak on items only presented on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment. Public comment cards should be completed and returned to the city clerk.
Mayor, I received no previous comment cards. However, we'll give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or mute their devices. Virtual audience, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand or mute your device. State your name and your address. If you wish to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand, state your name and address. Mayor, I see no virtual hand.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:36 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Give you a letter.
Yes, absolutely.
So great.
Yeah, look forward to you.
Have a nice night, everybody.
Notes, KOI. Anything else?
We'll be the same.
All right, Jake.